Good morning. If you're just waking up, you're watching CTV Morning Live. If you think back just 1 month, Vladimir Putin was waving at the world, showing off a new modern Russia during the Olympics. Now, last night, that same leader was kicked out or suspended out of the G8. President Barack Obama promising to impose a greater cost on the Kremlin if the confrontation over Ukraine escalates. But what can the West really do? Let's bring Dr. Helena Yakovlev-Golani into the conversation. She is a postdoctoral fellow at the Munk School of Global Affairs in Toronto. Nice to see you today, Helena.
Nice to see you too, Molly. Good morning.
My first question to you, I mean, Russia doesn't seem even fazed by this suspension out of the G8. Can anything really scare Russia?
Well, it would hurt the international prestige and probably fan them symbolically as international isolation become more and more salient. But it won't change Russia's policy towards Crimea. What really can help is that the West can actually has an economic leverage and maybe to use its economic weight to discourage this kind of behavior through economic sanctions. But for now, it's very symbolic what we have in international. Kremlin doesn't perceive diplomatic sanctions as threatening, but real economic sanctions, which may have a devastating effect on Russia's economy, cannot be applied efficiently at this point, as since Europe is unable immediately to diversify its energy supplies, which are 30% dependent on Russia.
Right. Is that the key to all of this? Then is it cutting off the Russian oil? Because I mean, it's supplying so much of the European countries.
Yes, this is the main key to really, hurt Russia in a sense.
I'm curious, I mean, do you think Crimea is a done deal now that leaders are focusing on future takeovers, or are we still focused on Crimea?
Well, it's a very complicated question. We cannot predict Putin's moves right now, as the Russian Federation is a powerful player in the post-Soviet space. Unfortunately, it cannot be stopped. But what we can do is to discourage this kind of behavior through cooperation with China and India, and to convey through them to Moscow that further advancement to any country or any advancement into Ukraine in eastern parts or southern parts will be contained by harsh economic sanctions, maybe even an embargo similar to that we used against Iran today.
Do you think that China and India would be willing to cooperate with the West on this one?
Well, this is the only option the West has right now. The other option is just to help Ukraine morally and economically. But these are the main actors who have some kind of influence over Russia.
Helena, yesterday we saw 13 Canadian leaders not allowed to enter Russia. That's in response to the Canadian sanctions that currently exist. Is this going to be a back and forth battle? Are we returning to East-West, Cold War status here?
Well, if the current status quo is maintained, I don't foresee any revival of the Cold War. But if Russia decides to invade eastern parts and southern parts of Ukraine, it will instigate a violent conflict which has the potential to develop into some kind of a renewed Cold War. What we saw with the Canadian MPs is just a regular tit-for-tat tactic that just Russia responded in some way to show that, they care.
Dr. Helena, we really enjoy your insight this morning, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Molly.
That is Dr. Helena Yakovlev-Golani joining us from the Munk School of Global Affairs in Toronto.